Dear defense aspirants, it's very important for you all to remain abreast with the latest pertaining to the matters military. So in this video, we shall be discussing about the concept of integrated theatre commands. Now you would be aware that the Indian Armed Forces has a total of 19 commands that belongs to the Army, Navy and the Air Force. Presently, there are 7 commands each of Army and Air Force, and there are 3 commands of the Navy. Besides that, there are 2 other commands which are the Tri-Services commands. One is the Andaman and Nicobar command, and the second one is the Strategic Forces command, under whose control is the nuclear arsenal of the country and various other strategic assets like the cyber and the space. Now, these 19 commands are not really co-located, and therefore there is often a challenge of proper coordination and exchange of information, intelligence sharing, and for the apt conduct of operations, it is important that all the 3 services work in unison, in concert, and there is proper synergy amongst the assets of the 3 forces. The battlefields of future are going to be non-linear and multi-dimensional, which means that all dimensions including land, air, sea, space, cyber and even nuclear will get activated concurrently, and hence every weapon system in the battle space will have to mesh and synchronize so that it works with a clockwork precision. So during the Kargil conflict, this area was found deficient, and hence it was decided as an operational imperative that we must go in for the theatre command concept, wherein there is a unified commander for a particular geographical theatre of security concern, and he would be allotted resources from all the 3 services, and he can use those assets at his disposal in a manner that it produces optimal results. There is no sidestepping required, and he doesn't have to look over his shoulder when he wants to execute a particular operation. So it is with this idea that the integrated theatre command concept is being put into motion. As a first step, the Chief of Defence Staff, that is the CDS, has been appointed by the government from 1st January 2020. General Bipin Rawat has taken over, and he is the single point advisor to the government on all matters military. It is believed that a total of 6 to 9 theatre commands will eventually come into existence. The first one, which is being instituted and will come up by the end of this year, is being called the Air Defence Command. In this, the air defence assets of all the 3 services are being clubbed together, and it will be headed by an Air Force officer. The next integrated theatre command that is being considered and is most likely going to be operational by the end of 2021 is being called as the Peninsular Command, which will be responsible for the security of peninsular India. It will be headed by a naval officer, and it will have assets from the Army and the Air Force. Besides this, there is a logistic command which is also being considered, which will pool in the administrative resources or the logistic assets from all the 3 services, and it will be responsible for providing the logistic backup to the fighting forces. Besides this, there will be integrated theatre commands which will be specific to China and Pakistan. So they will have assets clubbed in those which will be centric to the requirements of fighting a war against China or against Pakistan. Now, the integrated theatre commands do have, the concept does have certain advantages, and it also has a flip side. So let us look at both the advantages and some of the challenges of the integrated theatre commands. Now, the advantages of the integrated theatre command is that it will provide the troops complete acclimatization with their area of operations. They will be very familiar with that area. Their training needs can be taken care of, and similarly their administrative requirements can be more easily met. So if they day in and day out practice their operational role, naturally their efficacy will improve. Besides this, the equipment and the weapon platforms can be specifically procured for these geographical areas, and they can be maintained and pre-positioned close to their operational areas, so that in case of an eventuality, they can be quickly mobilized and they can come into effect at a much faster time frame. The biggest advantage of the integrated theatre command is that the unified commander will have all the requisite resources at his disposal, which he can bring to bear without having to look over his shoulder and without having to look at the other service for coordination. So he would have coordinated all the effort that is there at his disposal, and it can be brought to bear at a much faster time frame in a much more effective manner, because they would have synergized, they would have trained together, and they would have it will be possible to more effectively employ them. Let us now consider some of the challenges that the integrated theatre command offers. Now, the greatest challenge which is seen is that the combat resources which are in short supply, like for example, we are aware that the multi-role combat aircrafts that should be held with India are much less in number as is desired. We are aware that there is a requirement of around 45 Air Force squadrons, whereas we are holding presently around 33, and that too there are a lot of vintage equipment which is held there, which needs to be replaced. Similarly, the AVACs and the early warning assets, the command, control, communication assets which are held are in short supply, and these resources are being shared rather than being split. So if we have a theatre command concept, these resources will have to be divided and distributed amongst various theatre commands, and hence the efficiency in each of those theatre commands will be less. The second challenge which is being envisaged is that the troops and the equipment will be specific to a particular theatre, and their training and their operational role for which they have trained will change if in case there is a requirement of sidestepping or redeployment, because if in case a particular sector remains dormant and we move the troops and the equipment from that area, the efficacy of their operational preparedness may fall short, because they have not trained for that particular terrain, that particular operational role, and the equipment also that they would be holding may not suit that particular area of operation. So these are the two basic challenges that are being considered, and notwithstanding these challenges, the requirement of integrated theatre command cannot be overemphasized, because the battlefields of tomorrow will be characterized by a high tempo of operations conducted in a compressed time and space, and it will be coupled with high transparency owing to cutting edge technology, and therefore there will be no time, and for such an operation which is going to be swift, short and intense, there is a requirement of having integrated theatre commands, and that is why the government has given a go-ahead for this. I have written a detailed blog pertaining to the integrated theatre command. I will be attaching a link of this blog along with this video. You can have a look at that as well. Thank you so much. I hope you found the video interesting. Thank you very much.